This morning, I'm going to chat a little bit about our research over the past few years and our production experience with concentrating to a very high degree, and in the past year using a bulk tank to store some of that concentrate. And I know others have done this in the past or are doing it now, but I'll tell you what we found and where some of this might be going in the future. Not doing all this work myself. Wade Bosley is very involved in the sugar house. Brian Stowe was until this past year. Dr. Abby Vandenberg, Brendan Hayes is a research technician at the Proctor Center, and then of course Mark Iselhart. So why do we concentrate with RO? It's because we save an awful lot of energy. If we're boiling sap at about 2%, this is sap gallons versus the density of the product. If we're looking at the range of sap between about maybe 1.5 up to about 5 if we're really lucky. And I suspect some of you had some pretty good sugar contents last year. We saw higher averages across a lot of the northeastern part of the U.S. this past year. But if you're concentrating this, if you're just boiling raw sap, you have to boil anywhere from maybe 44, 45 gallons of sap to make a gallon of syrup. But by using RO and even concentrating to a fairly low degree, about 8%, we only have to boil about 8 gallons of concentrate to make a gallon of syrup. Huge improvement in energy efficiency from here. About a 75% reduction in the energy that is used and in the time that you're going to spend boiling. If we concentrate up a little bit higher, as the technology got better and better, maybe up to about 15 years ago, maybe we could boil about 6 gallons to get a gallon of maple syrup. And then we sort of hit a peak at about 20, maybe a little bit higher than that, a decade or so ago in the last generation of equipment. And we were boiling only about 4.5 gallons of concentrate to make a gallon of syrup. So a factor of about 10 reduction in the amount of energy, however you're boiling, whether it's wood or oil or some other method, just huge decreases in the energy required and in the time required to do this. Starting about 5 years or so ago, some of the companies started coming out with new HyperBrix machines, HyperBrix or HyperBrix, which could go up to maybe about the high 30s. But other companies certainly could produce machines that were generating concentrate of 25 bricks, in which case you're only looking at about 3.5 gallons to make a gallon of syrup. Up to about 35, 36 bricks, you're down in the low 2 range for making a gallon of syrup. So this is very attractive, even going from a modest level of concentration to a very high level of concentration. You're still decreasing the energy that's required by more than half. Much less volume that we simply have to deal with. So it's very clear, very apparent why RO is a good thing in the maple industry. So we're getting this tremendous savings in time and energy. RO is very well accepted in the maple industry. You hardly ever hear of anyone going to starting to use RO and then going back. It's just such a wonderful thing when you start using RO. The research that we've done and practice has shown that RO syrup is pretty much indistinguishable from other non-RO syrup made from the same sap. There are some differences, and we can go through that really quickly, but largely it's very high quality syrup, and it's a darn good thing because most syrup out there on the market now is made with RO. So again, even though we're going from a fairly, about 10 to 20 bricks here up to 25 to 35 bricks, we're still cutting back on the volume of concentrate that we actually have to boil. We have done quite a lot of work looking at RO over the years, in particular how it affected the quality and the flavor and the chemistry of syrup. And in general, by doing a bunch of sensory evaluations where we had people taste this syrup, we found that there really aren't any distinguishable differences in flavor. That doesn't mean there aren't any, it just means that people aren't particularly attuned to tasting those differences. And even though we could see differences, so in these are 3 different years of research. This is syrup made with raw sap, and then the same pool of raw sap concentrated at 8 bricks. We could see that concentration up to about 8 bricks actually made syrup that was a little bit darker. But when we taste these pairs of syrup made on the same day, or any of these pairs, we really people couldn't detect that there was any difference, even though visually we could see that there was a slight difference. So RO up to about 8 bricks actually produces slightly darker syrup than syrup made from raw sap. And that's because of changes going on in the invert levels as you're concentrating to those fairly modest levels of sugar content. In other years, we had 2% sap concentrating to 15 bricks, and you can see they're much, much closer in color, but again, no differences in flavor detected. This isn't just us tasting them and telling you there's no difference. This is panels of regulators, packers, producers, researchers sitting down. They can't see what this stuff is. We don't tell them. We just ask them to taste it and whether or not there's a difference. But you kind of have to do it in a scientific way, and the scientific way is easiest to describe if you think back to watching Sesame Street, maybe with your kids or as a young person, when they do one of these things isn't like the other. So you have three samples, and you taste all 3, and you have to determine which one is different. So you might have 2 of these and 1 of these, and you have to taste them all, and you don't know what they are, you can't see them, they're in an opaque bottle, and you're just going by flavor. And so you taste all 3 of them, you have to pick out the one that's different. And essentially, if a lot of people say, oh yeah, that one is the different one, then it means they're different. But if generally what we find is just a random assortment of people saying one of them is different. And unless enough people can tell us there's a difference, then it's not significant. And the same kind of thing, if we look at 8 bricks concentrate to 22 bricks concentrate, really not a lot of difference in color for the most part. It may be a little darker at the 8 bricks level than at the 22 bricks level, but no differences could be detected in flavor, no differences in mineral content for the most part, no differences in almost anything that we could actually measure. Well, so that brings us to about 5 years ago, and these new high concentration ROs started to come out. And when they first came out, they were mostly in Canada and Maine. So Dr. Vandenberg went on a road trip with some folks from the maple industry, some of the equipment dealers, and they collected syrup made from machines that were concentrating to levels at 30 bricks or higher. And then from neighboring sugar bushes who had made syrup on the same day, they collected syrup. And again, asked them a couple of questions, our panelists, a couple of different questions. One of them is the flavor of this syrup characteristic of pure maple syrup? And the green are the control syrups that were made with standard levels of RO concentration, and these gray, brown, tan bars were the HyperBrix machines. And so this is the percentage of respondents who answered in these categories, from disagree, entirely disagree, right up through somewhat disagree, neutral, or mostly agree, or entirely agree. So when we asked them about whether or not the flavor of these syrups were characteristic, you can see most of them either agreed to some level, either agreed or mostly agreed or entirely agreed. And the difference between the control and the HyperBrix was the same. There are no significant differences between the levels that we saw. So the results indicated that the concentrated sat with these HyperBrix machines had a flavor that was characteristic of pure maple syrup. And we also asked them a second question of whether or not they liked it or didn't like it. And the respondents liked it to the same degree as syrup made with the lower concentration levels. So with that, we thought, well, there isn't anything that spectacularly is jumping out at us with these HyperBrix machines. They aren't making syrup that people don't like, and that is different from pure maple syrup. So it might be something we would want to look at some more. Well, at the same time, we have a production sugar bush ourselves that we had expanded from about 1,400 taps up to over 4,000 taps by this point, and we were running into more and more problems in that we couldn't keep up. We were having long boils, 8-10 hours every time we boiled, which was pretty much every day the sap ran. And we were getting just these very, very long boils, very excessive niter buildup. You can see the pans here. Fortunately, we had a second set of front pans, second set of back pans, so we could swap them out and try to clean them when they became problematic. But because of these long boils, we didn't really want to have to do that during the boil. It's just to add even more time to the time that the excessive amount of time that we were spending. So we knew we had to do something. We had gone through and we had increased our processing rate by adding another membrane to our current RO. We were creeping up in the concentration up to about 18 to 20 at that point. And we pretty much run the course of everything we could learn from this current set of pans. So we wanted to increase the science level of the sugaring operation to the degree possible. We knew we had to decrease the amount of time that we were boiling. We had to deal with these niter buildup issues, and we wanted to increase our energy efficiency and our time efficiency. A big part of it for us was time efficiency. We're making syrup the same as all the rest of you are, but at the same time we're trying to do research. And there's always this pull between we have to do this research, but all the sap came in, so we need to process it. So we were spending a lot of time trying to do both. It's hard to do both well, and we get paid to do the science part of it. So that sort of dictated what we had to do a lot of the time, but we also didn't want to stop making maple syrup. So by switching to this new HyperBrix equipment, we could extend some of the research that we'd already done on RO effects on syrup flavor. So we acquired this system in 2000 for the 2017 production year. And the first year we just wanted to gain familiarity with the system and sort of push it to its limits, both high and low limits, to see what it would do. 2018, we tried to optimize the system to get as much energy and time efficiency out as we could. In both those years, we tested several different membrane combinations to see what was going to work well. And I tell you, it's awful nice when the equipment manufacturer shows up about every week and a half or 2 weeks and gives you a whole new set of membranes. That's a really nice thing. It isn't happening any longer. We settled on what we think works well, but boy, it was kind of nice there for a few years. And in 2019, this past year, we really sought to maximize our time efficiency. 2020, we're going to try to maximize both time efficiency and try to squeeze out a little bit more energy efficiency at the time. So this is the system that we actually have. It's a HyperBrix system. The HyperBrix started out as a 5-post machine. We added a 6-post to it in 2018. Originally it was 3 membranes for the first stage, 2 for the HyperBrix stage. Now it's 4 first stage membranes and 2 HyperBrix membranes. Came with wash tanks that pre-filter all the other type of equipment that you normally have with these types of rigs. And this was coupled to a LaPierre Volcano 2000 4x12 evaporator. Very, very different from a standard evaporator when you're boiling HyperBrix concentrate. In this case, it's a 4x4 back pan, so just a very small back pan. You don't need a lot of evaporation. We're only boiling about 2.5 gallons of concentrate to make a gallon of syrup. What you need is time. You need time for that concentrate to be in the evaporator to develop good flavor. So we have an 8-foot front pan. It's a Relo variable oil fired burner. The nice thing about that is you can dial it instantly from about 20% up to 100. So you don't have just high fire, low fire, you have everything in between. Our rig originally came with a hot water heating coil. We had a steamway before this, and one of our concerns is we wanted to still be able to generate a lot of hot water. So we had a heat coil put into the back pan. This has a reverse flow option, modulating auto draw, auto deformer, all the bells and whistles. Very, very nice rig, excellent rig to boil on. Been very, very happy with it. The one thing we did do in discussions with LaPierre, they originally suggested a 3x10. We had been boiling on a 3x10, and because of some of the work we knew we could see a few years out, we bumped it up to a 4x12, and I'll explain why in the. So this is the HyperBrix unit itself in our sugar house. This is with a 5-post configuration. It looks pretty much like the standard RO, and it really is. It's got 2 ROs plumbed together. It's the low end and the high end, and other than a few knobs and dials and indicator lights, it would be very, very similar to what you're probably operating today. The only difference is it has this high pressure pump and controls for that high pressure end to be able to bring it up to about 35, 36 Brix in one pass. We're not recirculating, we're not doing anything special. Sap's going in a 2-inch pipe and it's coming out in a 1/2-inch pipe, and that 1/2-inch pipe isn't nearly full. It's just a tiny, tiny trickle. It's a little disconcerting at first to see that tiny, tiny trickle coming out of that huge machine. But the difference is it's taking out a huge amount of water. So it really, what's coming out is very, very concentrated. And so there isn't much left to do to it to make it into syrup at that point. This is the evaporator in our sugar house. A few years is showing how it's configured. Once this is set up and operating, the concentrate is coming in here, running through and either coming out either the front or the back of the front pan. We draw off into a tank. Once the rig is started and starts drawing off, it's very, very smooth. You start it, it starts drawing off, it's a modulated draw off, and it just stays a steady trickle pretty much the whole time you're boiling. As long as you have concentrate coming in, you have syrup coming out, very, very steady rate, unless you switch sides. And when you switch sides on a front pan that big, it can get exciting. We try not to let it get very exciting, but occasionally it can at times. But in general, very, very easy, smooth rig to operate. So one of the big differences in what we do from probably what we do is we keep a huge amount of records. There's 3 people typically who work in our sugar house. We've got about 5,200 taps right now. So in the sugar house, when we do boil, there'll be 3 people. Usually I do all the boiling, which largely consists of starting the machine and then stepping back and letting it do its thing as I stand there and watch it. And then there'll be another person washing drums, filtering syrup, and putting it in the drum. And the third person, the only thing they do is write stuff down, take measurements and write stuff down. So one person all day long, when we're boiling, is just taking notes. So this is our RO data sheet, just the RO data sheet. There's other data sheets for filtering, there's other data sheets for running the evaporator. So there's just an awful lot of measuring going on. And that's why we have one person just to do that. We don't want them to have to worry about the evaporator or doing anything else. We just want them to take good data. So that combined with the fact that everything that goes in or out of any of these machines is being monitored. So we're measuring flows in and out of sap and concentrate and permeate, and sugar content is being measured. This is a device that measures the electrical consumption of the RO, the concentrate going in the back pan, oil consumption, whatever it is, we know what's going in, we know what's coming out. So these are results for 2017, 2018, 2019. You can see the amount of sap varied a little bit from year to year. These are all three with the HyperBrix. Sap varied a little bit higher this year, pretty good in 2017. In the first year we had this machine, as I said, we wanted to explore the ranges, so we ran it down as low as about 26 and as high as about 35.6. 2018, we tried to keep it as consistent as possible and ended up between 34.5 and 37.5. 2019, it was 35. Every time we ran this machine, when we saved concentrate, it was 35. The average concentration coming out of the machine was 31.1 in 2017, 36 in 2018. We found the machine, that was basically pegged. The machine was just squeezing the sap as hard as it possibly could. And we found the flow rates were a little better if we backed off just a hair from that. So in 2019 and in the future, we'll run it at about 35 bricks all the time. But you see here, our effective concentrate was just a little over 25 in 2017. And the reason for that is when we would start the machine up, as it ramps up to its level, it's not concentrating as well as it should, so it's slowly coming up in sugar content. And we were saving that as concentrate. And the same thing at the end of the day, when we purge it back into the concentrate tank, and as it came down, it would dilute out the concentrate that we were running at 31, but it diluted it down to less than, or a little bit over 25. 2018, 2019, we stopped doing that. We started recirculating back into the sap tank until it hit our target number. When it hit our target number, change the valve, it would go into the concentrate tank. So we know that every bit of sap that went in there that year ended up being right around 36 or 35 in 2018, 2019. We concentrated 22 times in 17, 27 times in 18, and only concentrated 20 times in 2019. And you can see all the rest of these numbers here. Syrup yield was over half a gallon per tap, which this past year was particularly good. And I'll explain to you one reason why our sap yields got better in 2018, 2019. Strangely enough, it's due to the RO, indirectly. So 2018, the change we made for that season was we added a bulk tank, a refrigerated bulk tank. This was put in our sugar house, offset a little bit from the evaporator, but up overhead, so it could gravity feed. We used it for our concentrate storage. It was 650 gallons nominally, but we know if we filled it right to the very brim and piled it up a little bit in there, we could get 702 gallons. We refrigerated this to 23 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. If there's one thing to remember today, it is don't refrigerate it to 23 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit unless you're going to concentrate to 35 to 36 bricks. If If you do that with regular concentrate at 15 to 20 bricks, you will have a big, sweet popsicle in your bulk tank. So you got to figure out what temperature you can refrigerate to. For us, we wanted it right above that point where it would freeze. We want to keep it just as cold as possible, but not let it freeze. There's an electric ball valve right here. This is above our, it's on a second floor, so we don't have to run up and down. So we have the controls right by the evaporator, so we can turn on and off the concentrate flow very, very easily. At 23 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit, this concentrate stays good for who knows how long. We kept it for at least a week on several occasions and had no problem with it. The sort of joke around the Proctor Center was we should just wait and boil in the summer when the weather was nice. If we had a big enough bulk tank, we probably could have. In 2019, we added a 300-gallon concentrate overflow tank, and I'll show you how that worked. But we would refrigerate it down to this 23 to 25, and then when this tank was filled, we put it in our overflow tank, which was totally insulated, and it would hold that concentrate up to a temperature below 32 for several days. You want to be, as I said, very careful with this. So one day we forgot to shut off the chiller as the tank was getting low. We found we had slushy trying to run down through our pipes. And you can see what happens. Slush does not run particularly well through pipes unless you pour buckets of hot permeate into it. So now we backed off a little bit more, and we make sure we shut the bulk tank refrigeration off when we get down to a fairly low level. The other thing we found with this, doing it this way and keeping it that cold, is the one side of the back pan where the concentrate went in hardly ever boiled. It was just too cold to boil on that side. The other side would boil fine. So this coming season, we actually converted our heat loop to a preheater loop for the concentrate, so we can try to bring it up to something a lot more reasonable and squeeze out a little bit more energy efficiency out of the system. So why are we going down to 23 to 25? Well, because when you have sugar water, essentially things will like to grow in it. And they grow in it depending on how warm it is and what kind of microorganisms are there. So a lot of things that we normally see in day-to-day life are these mesophiles. This is a growth rate at various temperatures, and sorry, this is in degrees C. So right around air temperatures, right in this sort of range, there are things, a lot of things that grow, and they grow pretty fast. A little bit colder than that, you would get these psychotrophs, and even colder than that, we get these this group of microorganisms, and there's not very many of them. They're not very common. Psychrophiles, so they like it cold. They like to be cold, but they only like it to a certain degree. They can't grow once you get down to about 5 degrees C, which is negative 5 degrees C, which is about negative 20, negative 25 degrees Fahrenheit. So if we keep it right down there, there may be a few of these microorganisms hanging out, but boy, they're not growing very fast. And that's okay. We don't need to kill them. Boiling won't kill them. But what we do need to do is keep them from growing. And the slower they grow, the better for us. It means the longer we can keep that concentrate. So 2018 season, we had 27 concentration cycles up to 36 bricks. We boiled, even though we concentrated 27 times, we only boiled 11 times. Because we were concentrating to such a high degree that we had such a low volume of concentrate that we didn't need to boil. Or if we did boil, we'd fire up for 30 minutes and then shut down. And that just didn't make sense. So we had the bulk tank, we just kept it going until it was filled up. So we had an average in 2018 of 2.5 concentrations per boil. We boiled a total of 45 hours for boil time. Now, doing this, storing it in your bulk tank, isn't going to change the total amount of time you have to boil at a certain concentration level. but it's going to allow you to boil for a longer period of time. So we were boiling for about 4 hours as opposed to a shorter amount of time the year before. We were having a lot of concentrations, a lot of very, very short boils. So we averaged, by doing this, about 276 gallons per boil. So for us, we had to really be ready to handle that sort of volume of syrup in a. So what this shows is in 2017, in 2018, if we had only used the HyperBrix. But what we actually did was use the HyperBrix and the bulk tank. So there were 22 concentrations in 2017, 27 in 2018. Whether we use the HyperBrix and bulk tank, we concentrated every time. And we concentrated always to 36 bricks, but what we boiled was only, if we hadn't used the bulk tank, we would have had to boil 27 times, but we actually only boiled 11 times. Would not have changed our boil time whatsoever, same amount of concentrate. Now we actually might have decreased that a little bit because there would be fewer startups and shutdowns, but we're just going to call it the same. What it really changed for us by cutting down on the number of boils is the amount of cleanup time. Because every time you boil, you need to clean. And for us, a cleaning cycle, 2.5 hours. We just know everything we have to clean. It's taken us 2.5 hours from the time we shut down the evaporator till the time we close the door at the end of the night. It's 2.5 hours. So 2.5 hours times 27 gets 67.5 hours, but we actually only spent 27.5 hours because we only boiled 11 times. So when you total up the total amount of sugar house time, boiling time, cleaning time, if we hadn't had the bulk tank, we would have spent 112 hours. And with the bulk tank, we only spent 72 hours there. So we saved ourselves a considerable amount. If we compare what we would have had if we concentrated to 25 bricks the year before, we saved ourselves about close to 30 hours of time in boiling. So by going from 25 to 36, at that evaporation rate, we saved 30 hours of boiling. But then we saved more time in the cleaning, so overall we saved almost 70 hours of time in 2018 by using the bulk tank and the HyperBrix.
Question?
Yeah.
You said it didn't take any difference in the boiling time, but yet you were starting out with a much colder sap last year, or did you preheat it?
No, in both of those years we were starting out with cold sap. We haven't preheated yet, so all these numbers are without the preheat.
All right.
Yeah.
So do you expect it to decline somewhat with preheated sap?
I expect we'll be able to process a little faster because it's going to be hotter. We're going to get more efficiency out of the back pan by preheating it.
Between boils, like you did 11 boils, did you drain the evaporator and then put that stuff into a concentrated tank as well?
Usually we would. We draw off the end of the day into a large draw-off tank, hot syrup, cover it, put it aside. But it usually wasn't more than 2 or 3 days. And last season, the other thing you have to remember, both this season and last season were fairly cold seasons. We didn't get a lot of hot weather in between. Now, if it had been a longer period of time, or we had hotter weather, we might have put it back into the pan and boiled it for a few minutes to make sure we killed anything.
Plus, it's almost all syrup.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
Yeah, it's very dense. Yeah. It's somewhere between 36 and 67. So 2019, it was a faster season, so we had 20 concentration cycles. We went to 35 bricks. As I said, we added that overflow tank, and we had a total of 5 boils. Concentrated 20 times, boiled 5 times. Turns out we boiled on Fridays. We just decided if it works out, we'll boil Friday afternoon. Because that way we'd have everything cleaned up for the weekend. Get the weekend off. Imagine that. Sugaring season, we take the weekends off. We also never boiled we never were in the sugar house past 6 o'clock. But we went home, we actually got to see our wives and kids and took the weekend off. So if that appeals to you, then you might want to try some of this stuff. So 5 boils pretty much on Friday. We averaged 4 concentrations per boil. The range was about 3 to 6. We had 27 hours of boil time. Our boil time came up though. So we started early in the morning and we boil right through the afternoon and then clean. So our boil time went from about 4 point something hours in 2018 to 7.4 hours. But we probably increased efficiency a little bit because the evaporator was hot by that point. The only thing it meant is we had to switch sides a few more times. So we produced a total of 3,347 gallons of syrup on 5150 taps. And the other thing is, we were producing, for us, a good amount of syrup per boil. So you need to be ready to handle that volume of syrup if you're going to try something like this. We have 2 filter presses, so as soon as one is done, the other one slides right in. It's running within just a couple of minutes, and we never have any amount of time that if the syrup's not drawing off, that's not being filtered and going in the drum. So this is what it actually looks like in our sugar house. This is the releaser, electric releaser coming in. It goes to our 2 primary sap tanks. This is for about half of our sap. The other half of our sap is trucked in and goes right into the sap tanks. It feeds into the RO, and initially during the startup cycle and then the purge cycle, it's returning back to the sap tank until it hits 35 Brix. Once it hits 35 Brix, we change the valve, it goes to the bulk tank. It goes to the bulk tank, and then at the end of the day, we wash the machine, the RO. We're not filling that bulk tank up real fast because the concentrate level is so high. So the next day we might do the same thing, concentrate, put it in the bulk tank, concentrate, put it in the bulk tank. And then when Friday ran around, by that time we were full. We might have, and usually were, running it into the overflow tank after the bulk tank got filled, but it was always at about 25 degrees C that it went in here, and it only stayed in here for a couple of days. It might be in here for up to about a week, might be in here for a couple of days before we processed it, and it was staying below 32 until we actually did process it. From there, when we were ready to go, we opened up the valves and ran it into the evaporator and started the process. Now, if it wasn't Friday and we weren't going to boil, but we still had sap coming in, we would sometimes concentrate and dump it right back in the sap tank. Now, we wouldn't have a 3,000 gallon tank of 35 Brix, but we would reduce the volume down, get it down to about 10 to 15 Brix overall, so it was sweeter. And the reason for that was so we wouldn't have to boil that day without having everything full. If it was late in the afternoon when we had the bulk tank filled, but we still had a few thousand gallons of sap to concentrate, we didn't want to start the evaporator at that point. So we recycle it back into the sap tank, sweeten these tanks up a little bit, but there was still sap coming in. So it would dilute it overnight, it wouldn't spoil. And then the other thing is the next day when we did start boiling, this stuff would already be maybe in a range of 5 to 10 Brix after having been diluted, and it ran through here really fast. So we could concentrate everything very, very easily the next day. So we actually had, this 1,000 gallons or close to 1,000 gallons plus some slightly sweetened stuff here that we could run through and produce syrup from the next day pretty easily. So this is what it looks like. This is the daily sap production, these blue dots, the gallons of sap that we were getting on this scale. The red bars show the cumulative amount of syrup we were making, and the numbers here show the number of sap runs that went into that boil. And then the the total just runs across the top for how much we made that day. So the very first day we boiled 560, the other days were 710, 785, 728, and our last day was 564 gallons. So 5 boils, our season was done, pretty simple. So the other thing that's really, really interesting for us when we add in 2019 is, as I said, 5 boils. Our time boiling was 37 hours this year. Our cleanup time, you know, we suddenly went from where we were having almost as much cleanup time as we were having boiling time to having a lot more boiling time, a lot less cleaning time. Because we were only boiling 5 times, we only needed to clean 5 times. And I don't know about you, but cleaning isn't my favorite thing. So cutting back on that really helped quite a bit. So the total amount of time that we spent in the sugar house is down by well under half of what we were doing before, and we were making more syrup. So if you look at it, if you count 2017 year as saving no time, 2018 just using the HyperBrix we saved 30 hours, 2018 with the HyperBrix with the HyperBrix and the bulk tank we saved 70 hours. And by going to with a HyperBrix and bulking it up into the bulk tank as long as we possibly could, we saved close to 97 hours. So that's a savings of about 2 3/4 hours per day, or 19 1/4. So that's about half a person per week. Maybe half a regular person, not half of a sugar drinker, but half a regular person a week. So if you can't figure out what to do with 19.25 extra hours a week, then I got some ideas for you. But it was really, really nice to not have to spend all that extra time cleaning and all that extra time in the sugar house. Sugar house is kind of a fun place, kind of a social place for lots of sugar makers, but it is not where you make your money. You make your money in the woods. So by doing this, we didn't have to clean nearly as much. And so we could spend more time in the woods. So I told you early on our production was better. Partly it was the season, but partly it's because our vacuum in 2019 was the highest it had ever been. So 2019 season, our energy efficiency savings were about 50% increase in fuel efficiency compared to early on with a 25 bricks. And it's probably going to go up even more when we heat our concentrate before it hits the back pan. Time efficiency really comes about in reduced labor costs or more time for you to spend with your family. For me, it's reduced labor costs because we have technicians that work for us. We pay them overtime. I didn't pay them overtime this year. I didn't pay them overtime last year. They didn't have to work on a weekend. They didn't have to work at night. They got to actually go home. Well, they probably weren't quite as happy not getting paid overtime, but they did like having the extra time and not having to be there until 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and be there all day Saturday, and be there all day Sunday. Now, can't say they didn't have to work at all. Somebody had to come in and start the RO on Saturday if the sap ran. So if the sap ran, one person would come in, turn on the RO, wait till it stabilized at 35 bricks, change the valve, and go home. At the end of the day, another person would come in once we knew it was off, the RO would run all day, come in, start the wash cycle, wait until the wash cycle was done, start the rinse cycle, and go home. So you're there for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2 different people. Wasn't like you were there all day Saturday night, and all day Sunday. Very, very, very little actual time on weekends. So, yeah.
Your energy efficiency was from the increase in concentration.
Yes.
What about the overall energy cost per gallon of syrup?
Yeah.
I mean, it had to cost you something for the refrigeration.
Yeah, we're still working on metering the bulk tank. We've metered the RO and have a pretty good idea of that, but we need to meter the bulk tank. And I get that question a lot. You must be spending a lot to run that bulk tank. No. It's only 30 to 40 degrees outside when it's running. So that compressor isn't running very hard. It's only having to bring the temperature from maybe 40, maybe on a really hot day, 50 degrees down to 25. The compressor's got a really, really easy job. And it's in the sugar house, which for us is an unheated sugar house, even though it's above the evaporator. It doesn't get warm in the sugar house. So I don't think we're using that much. And it's not there all the time. It's not keeping a huge volume of liquid, and the liquid that's coming out of the RO is warm, but it's not as warm as cow's milk. And it's not the volume of cow's milk that you're dealing with every day. It's a very small volume. So I don't think the electrical cost for the bulk tank is great. Maybe Glenn has some better numbers on that.
I concur. It's very, very tiny. The RO, though it's big, it consumes a tiny little bit comparative to evaporating.
Yeah. So saved quite a bit in energy efficiency, saved quite a bit in time efficiency, and it was due to both the high concentration and the reduced number of boils. So when we combine them both, we're getting just monstrous increases in efficiency. The biggest thing, though, the biggest change in our operation has come about due to scheduling flexibility, where it's not sat ran, turn the RO on, an hour later we're boiling. And we're boiling until the RO stops running. And we're gonna be here until it stops running. Sat ran today, turn on the RO. Maybe we'll boil tomorrow, or maybe we'll boil Friday. To absolutely uncouple those two things.
Did you ever keep track of how much sap you get for each year that comes out of the trees?
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah, we have very, very good
Is
numbers.
it a big difference from year to year?
Not as big as you might expect. The variables are the trees, and for us, the trees aren't changing. They're the same, mostly the same trees. But then after that, it's sanitation and vacuum level, and then it's season. And they're all pretty close to each other. But since 2004, we've made over half a gallon tap every single year, and some years a good amount more, except one, 2012, which was a terrible season, because we didn't hit a half gallon per tap. We hit 0.46. Still better than the 35 years before that. So, if that's our worst season, then we hope they don't come very often, but it still wasn't terrible. I'm going to keep going for a few minutes to make sure I get through this, and then I will answer questions. So the great thing about this is for us, it really just decoupled that having to boil every time the sap ran. We could now schedule what we wanted to do as opposed to schedule being imposed on us. And for us, with the research going on too, it just made our life much, much more manageable during this time. For the woods crew, it meant they could spend a lot more time in the woods, or they could spend time at home. We also use electronic monitoring systems, Smart Track, and so they can get up in the morning and look at it and say, I'm okay, I don't need to run right out in the woods right now. I can go in, and when they do look at it, they say, and when I go in the woods, I need to go here. Now, I need to go find a leak somewhere among these 5,000 taps. It's on this line that's got 100 taps on it, it's somewhere there. So our efficiency is quite high. So as I said, why do you want to do this? This is the first time we had seen 29 at the Proctor Center that I can recall. And we're at 1,400 feet elevation. So that is as good as you're going to get, ever. We had the highest vacuum throughout the season, fewer leaks, better vacuum, our production was better, we had lower labor costs, we had more free time. What is there not to like? It was tremendous.
Higher
Well, there may be a few things you might not like about some of these things, but for us, there was a lot of really good things. Now, could you apply this without going to 35? Sure. You just need a bigger bulk tank, you might need a different size evaporator, you need to size your operation appropriately. But you know, there are also some disadvantages. You start to get things like this. This was the very first year ever since I've been at the Proctor Center that we had to turn the vacuum pumps down. And that's a tough thing to do. Say, oh, we have too much vacuum. We got to back off a little bit. Fortunately, and probably the reason this pipe did this was because there's no sap moving through here at all. This is just an air line going out to one of the research sections of our bush. So it's a 2-inch pipe though. It took a little bit. And this isn't a particularly sunny spot. It just has a slight curve in it, and it was just enough to collapse a little bit. So thank you to all these folks. It's been a really interesting thing. Next year we hope we'll be able to eke out a little bit more energy efficiency on this. And for us, you know, going to this very HyperBrix system, going to bulk tanks especially, has been just a tremendous advantage. So, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Can you kind of touch on the cost of investment versus your savings?
Cost of investment for the equipment?
For the HyperBrix and the refrigerated tank?
Yeah, you'd have to go chat with the folks either at any of these companies that you wanted to go for their equipment and find out what it was. It's not cheap. These machines are not cheap, and so you're paying for some of that savings in time and efficiency by an upfront cost. But for us, it added up pretty quick. The bulk tank, unfortunately, there's a lot of dairies going out of business. Dairies going out of business, the bulk tanks are sitting there unused. They're still not giving them away, but you can find a bulk tank, an operating bulk tank, at a pretty reasonable rate. There's still plenty of people around who know how to fix them, how to set them up with the compressors, and they're looking for business. They're having a hard time right now too. So I don't know what the going rate for bulk tanks is. The one we have is we pulled out of a dairy that was going out of business down in Randolph, put it on the back of a flatbed truck and brought it up and put it in. They're not easy things to move around. And just there's one quick story. When we got this bulk tank, we put it in our sugar house on the floor, and we knew we wanted it up above, but you know, moving a thing that heavy up above in the sugar house, fortunately we had steel beams going across, so we knew it would support it, but it was getting it up there. So Brian and I and we talked about it for a week or two. How the heck are we going to do this? And so it was summer. Brian and I went on vacation for a week, and we came back. We walked in the sugar house, and it's up there. Wade, I don't know if any of you know Wade Bosley. He put it up there himself. Just took his time, moved real slow, chain falls, moved it around, got it up there perfectly, set it in place, level. Don't anybody try stealing. He's staying on us.
But you kind of already answered that question, but I can't afford, unfortunately, right now, the nice HyperBrix. But what about, I'm running about 18-20% right now.
Yeah.
So just double the bulk tank, but I'm worried about the bacteria because I cannot keep it at that temperature.
Then don't boil once a week, boil twice a week. You know, it's not, it's kind of like milk. So if you're holding the milk in your refrigerator for a long time, of course that's been ultra pasteurized, so it's good for a long time. But as long as you're keeping it as cold as you can keep it, it's just about. I mean, water freezes at 32. Sap, you know, is gonna, or concentrate isn't gonna freeze at 32. It's gonna be somewhere below that. So if you kept it around 30, you'd probably be okay. And there's not much going to grow in there, and especially it's not going to grow very fast. But you know, work your way into it.
Do half, or
Yeah.
even actually 30% less.
Yeah. The bigger issue with this is what do you do with your sweet that you drain out of your pans? Because if you're only boiling once a week and it gets hot, what do you do? Well, for us, we're all set up that if it gets warm and we think that that might start to go ropey, we pump it back into our pans, fire it up for 5 minutes, run a little bit of permeate into it for just a few minutes, and kill everything. And then we'll do that every couple of days if we start doing that. And we did a few times last year where we boiled it just for a few minutes.
Really?
If you do that, make sure you drain your full boxes as you're doing it, pour it back in so that your full boxes get plenty hot too. Especially depending on your evaporator. Some evaporators have
But could
full
you-
boxes that sit
Could you
further
also
away.
just run the permeate through or water through, just boil it out like the end of the season? Like,
Yeah, I'm not sure what your question is, but
well, like, rather than like boiling or whatever, just run water through it and finish off your pans, as we call it.
yeah, you could.
Could mix it that
Chasing the sweet kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
chase the sweet.
Yeah, I'm not a real big fan of that. What we'll do is boil our pans down to a certain level and then transfer everything from the back pan to the front pan, and then close them off and run permeate just in the back pan, boil it down until it's all syrup, and then draw the whole thing off the front pan. That way you don't lose any bit of sugar. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of chasing sweet. Yeah.
Cool.
Tim, if I could, for a commercial sugar hill, which we all have, not
Yeah.
an experiment station like you have. If we just boil what's comfortable for us in a day and feel that it's okay to stop,
Yep.
that's worth a lot, rather than this huge production day followed by a little tiny day,
Right.
a huge day, and a tiny day.
Well, especially when you get 4 or 5 of those huge days in a row, when
Right.
everybody's just walking around like a zombie.
Right. Yeah. So we started out totally from scratch, so we didn't have to change out any equipment. That's a hard thing to do. You change an evaporator and an arrow the same year. That's hard.
So steep learning curve.
Yeah. So, yeah, it works really amazing.
Yeah, well, it's worked for us. It sort of depends what your goals are, and it doesn't need to be that you boil once a week. It could be that you boil a little less or even amount, so you're only boiling until 5 or 6 o'clock at night instead of 1 or 2. Other questions?
Would UV treatment help with any bacteria concerns?
Yes. So would UV treatment help with any of the bacteria for sap or for concentrate? Yes. The problem is finding one that is effective, and most of them that are out there probably aren't very effective. There was one unit that was pretty effective, but it's so darn expensive that it isn't economically, doesn't make sense. It's more, if you can process it fast enough, you probably don't have to worry about it too much, or if you can keep it cold. And so for us, it's process the sap as soon as we can, but keep the concentrate cold. Yeah, UV is one of those things that we wish worked well. And then the other question that you come up with was, well, then how about ozone? Ozone doesn't work with sap for some reason. Yeah.
I think I understood this gentleman's question earlier, that if you experiment with lower concentrations of sap, you just try and bring the temperature down as low as you can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we've been asked that question a lot this year as we're talking about this, and so we probably will come out with a chart on the freezing point of concentrate at different Brix levels. Because enough people have asked, well, if I go to 22, how low can I bring it? You want to have a little bit of a built-in buffer on that too, because those refrigeration units aren't perfect. They are above and below a little bit.
Some of us that don't have the refrigerating units, and it's 38 degrees out that night, you know. The question is, if you concentrate at night, is it gonna be good the next day?
Can't tell you for sure. Depends what concentrate temperature coming out of your RO is. Some ROs would heat up the concentrate a good bit more than others. Yeah, it's a good thing to know. And that's one of the reasons we went from 36 to 35. When it was coming out of 36, it was warm, really warm. It didn't matter to us that much because it was going right into the bulk tank and we could refrigerate it. But It was warm, very, very low volume, but just backing off a hair, temperature dropped and the volume went up. Well, thank you. I'll be around for the day if anybody has any other questions.
Thank you.
So when that guy is writing things down,